Okay.
Welcome, everybody. Really pleased today to have a very special guest, Keenan. He's the founder of A Sales Guy, which is a great sales consulting and recruiting company. He's got a huge following on LinkedIn. He's a great keynote speaker. He was just ranked number 8 out of the top 20 sales influencers. Oh, 7. Sorry. Was it
7?
Sorry.
7.
It was 7. Sorry,
yes.
Keenan.
One ahead of Mark Benioff. Feeling like a stud. One ahead of Mark Benioff. I got you, Mark. You could buy a yacht.
I saw that ahead of Mark Benioff. That's amazing. And he's the author of it.
I'll tell you what. I'll trade 7 for 8 and take his money.
There you go. It sounds like a good deal. Keenan's also the author of a book I'd recommend to everyone, Not Taught, What It Takes to Be Successful in the 21st Century That Nobody's Teaching You. He's a great personality, and he's got a great, great thoughts on sales and what we should be doing. So, Keenan, welcome to the show.
Thank you, baby. Thank you.
Yeah, great to have you here. So let's get into it. I'd like to ask you, what are some of the major common issues you see in sales teams today?
Ooh, that's a broad question.
Which
side of the coin do you want me to take? The sales, what I call the participant, like the individual practitioner, or do you want me to talk about the leadership side?
Yeah, more leadership, like when you look at sales structures, sales processes, what people are doing versus what they should be doing, where managers are directing their people, in the right way or the wrong way,
Yeah. So I think the biggest challenges I see in sales organizations at the leadership level are, number one, is poor leadership. Horrible leadership. No one's really paying any attention to who they're hiring. They're trying to hire their best person, the best salesperson. They give no leadership training, or very little leadership training. And if they do give leadership training, their leaders, i.e. the second line managers, don't actually coach them on leadership, don't evaluate them on leadership. It's the focus on numbers, the undying, almost obsessive drive to the numbers, which seems like the right thing to do, is actually undermining the sales cultures because they're not focused on anything else. They're not focused on the things that get them to the numbers, the processes, the methodologies, the individual leadership, the talent identification. I mean, yeah, it's the leadership and culture is what the biggest problems are.
Right. So what should that look like, do you think? Because, there's huge pressures on sales managers, sales leaders. They're getting hit on the number every day, getting hit on activity every day. Yeah, how do they manage that better? Or what does good look like around this?
Well, I mean, look, we know you got to get the number, but a lot more has to be focused on the how. We're too focused on the what. What do you got to get? I got to get 1 million. Well, get it. Push. And it's on this how hard are you working? How much drive you put in? Did you make the number? And no one stops to ask the question, well, how are they doing it, right? How are we going to market? So as a second line manager and a third line manager, you need to really ask yourself, what sales strategies have you put in place, right? What sales methodologies and processes have you put in place? How are you evaluating your sales team's effectiveness? And I don't mean on the number. If you're going through your sales team and you're saying, this is how I evaluate my sales team, 22% are above quota, 60% are at quota, and whatever that remaining number is, 18% is below quota, get rid of the 18%, you're a clown. You're a clown because you're missing the point. Why are those 22% above quota? What are they doing? What are the 80 or the 67%, whatever the number I threw out there, what are they doing? What methodologies am I driving through the organization? What behaviors do I expect? What tools am I providing the team? What processes do I employ to help drive them in the right direction? Where am I providing the support? I mean, it's all of that stuff that they need to be focused on.
Yes.
And it's not.
Yeah, so it too much focus on what versus how. And I'd like to get into some of the hows in a minute and get some of your tips on those. You also just mentioned before about coaching, the sales managers and sales leaders coaching, the next level guys. Like, tell me a bit more about that. What's happening and not happening there?
So it's interesting you asked that question. So I literally just sent out our survey to our sponsors to evaluate before it gets published. It could be published as soon as tomorrow. I'm random like that, don't wonder. Or by Monday at the latest. In this survey, we surveyed 1,000 salespeople and sales leaders around coaching, right? And what we found is that people who are coached I'm going to butcher this, but I think are 32% more likely to exceed quota than those who aren't.
Right? Huge. Yeah. It's not surprising. Yeah.
I'm sorry?
It's not surprising, but it's great to hear it comes out in the data. Yeah.
Yep. And another thing we found, which was fascinating, is that, ready for this, I'm butchering these numbers because it's not right in front of me, but I think it's roughly 84% of all sales managers, that's first line and second line and beyond, say they coach their salespeople, right? But only 42% of salespeople say they're coached. Massive disconnect.
Big disconnect.
Well, way huge. This is over 1,000 salespeople, sales managers. This is just a couple hundred. We went deep and we went big on this.
Yes.
So what it says is that the sales organizations don't have coaching cultures. They don't know how to coach. Coaches think they're coaching and think they're getting involved, and they're not. Another statistic that came up is, so we asked them, how frequently do you coach? And one of the answers was every day, once a week, once every 2 weeks, once a month, and over a month, right?
Okay.
It is almost completely flipped. Salespeople say that they don't get coached that often every day, but they get coached a little more weekly, and then even a little more bi-weekly, and a bunch monthly, and then not too much after that. But sales managers say they coach every day. So it's like the lowest number of salespeople every day, sales coaches every day, and then as it goes like this, right?
Yes.
And then they're saying they don't coach that much monthly, but salespeople say that's pretty much all they get is coached monthly. Massive disconnects in how they're coaching, how the coaching is perceived, etc.
So what do you think good coaching looks like? Should sales managers be coaching every day or every week, one-on-one, group? What do you think works well?
So I believe, look, I think if you have a chance to coach every day, you should, but I don't think you should build a cadence for that. So what I advocate, and we actually have a proprietary coaching method here at A Sales Guy that talks about building a coaching cadence. So what you need to do is you first need to identify what behaviors you want to coach. And we believe there's two types of behaviors you coach. You coach the selling behaviors and selling skills. So you want to coach on the skills themselves. Like, I don't know, cold calling, writing messages, engaging with people, discovery, all that's the tactical selling skills. And then you want to coach on what we call the personal development or career development stuff, right? Their ability to communicate, engage with others, their leadership, their self-awareness, those broader personal skills that allow someone to grow within an organization, whether it be sales or whatever, right? That whole personal development, career development skills. And then you build a cadence for that. So we recommend a 6-week cadence for the sales skills. A weekly cadence for the sales skills in the pipeline. Like you get the pipeline meetings, you've got other types of opportunities. You look for weekly or bi-weekly for this coaching of the sales skills.
Okay.
And then we recommend a 6 to 8 week cadence where you coach them on the personal development and growth skills, right?
Okay, makes sense.
And then we also recommend, and then we recommend a whole approach that's called observe, describe, prescribe, absorb, and apply. And so we teach these managers to look for observable moments along the skills that you're coaching. Then you tell them what you observed, the impact of that observation. Then you observe, then you describe what you observed and the impact of that observation. Then you prescribe an alternative approach and the impact of that approach. So it's, you're doing this, you'll get this, but if you do this, you'll get that.
Yes.
Then you watch, did they absorb what you shared with them? And then you watch them apply, and now you're watching them apply, wash and repeat.
Yes.
That's how we do it.
Yeah, so you've got quite a detailed approach and structure. And I'd agree. I don't see many organizations having such a serious approach to sales coaching. So I think that's really valuable to have a cadence on the skills, a cadence on the personal development, and then like a structure on how you do that. That must be really powerful when you adapt. Yeah. So tell me more about the hows.
Dude.
So what are some of the hows that sales leaders should be looking at and working with their teams on rather than the what's?
So when you say the hows, okay, take a look at the skills that are required for the job.
Yep.
Okay. One of the biggest mistakes sales organizations make and people make is they assume that all sales skills are created equal and they go across every position. Well, that's not true. If I'm an SDR, an inbound SDR, the selling skills that make me good in my job are going to be very different than the selling skill of the outbound account executive.
Yes. Okay.
Right? So the first thing I tell people is take a look at the role and ask yourself what skills are required to be successful in that role. Write them down, define what good looks like, and then coach on those, and then look for observable moments in those. So for instance, if it's an outbound SDR, one of the things I might want to talk about is their email creation. And unless marketing's doing it for them, they have to write their own emails. How are they writing their emails? How is the offer? What's the ask? How intriguing is it? What is the response rates, right? It could be also, how is their research? I look for observable moments around their research. How are they finding the people they call? How are they determining what the message is? Why do they think that was a good target? Like I want to look at that and then say, hey, this was good. Observation. I saw how you did this. I saw the impact. I also saw you do this. This impact wasn't what you were looking for. Let me prescribe this instead. I think you'll get this outcome. That's how you do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So it leads me into like the next topic. I want to shift gears because I know you have a recruiting business, and it's interesting. You got the consulting business and the recruiting, and I'd like to know why you might have set that up. But tell us about the challenges in recruiting, because that's a big challenge for all sales leaders, getting that right.
Okay, so you mean what's the challenge with recruiting as from the business perspective?
Yeah, like
not my perspective, from the business perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so do you mean now? See, watch what I do here. A lot of businesses, let me rephrase this, a lot of leaders and people don't do what I do. You just asked me a question, but before I answer it, I want to get a better understanding of exactly what you mean. So I'm going to have you define, right? Because people just jump in. They think they know what people are talking about and start answering.
Sure. It's something I've studied a lot, and there's a lot of data to support that. Hiring people based on interviews and CVs gets a pretty low hit rate of success, and there's a huge failure rate in the first year of salespeople coming into territories and failing. Sometimes it's a company issue, but often it's a recruiting issue. We've hired the wrong person for the wrong job, and
Okay. Yeah. So are you asking me about sourcing, or you asking me about the evaluation and the interview process?
I guess the evaluation and interview process more. Okay. Let's say, we can get candidates in, we can get 100, we've got to choose the best 5 or 6 out of that somehow.
So the biggest problem goes back to what they coach, like all about integration and alignment. If you take the time, and you can come at this from either way. I don't care which way people come at it. But let's just say, based on our flow of conversation, we just talked about how you coach people. And I said, you need to build a list of the skills that are most critical to the success of that role. So if you did that and they're all sitting there, right, and you know what they are, then you turn around and say, I need to hire someone with these skills. So you put those fucking things in the job description.
Yes.
Not good with Excel, not 10 years experience, not SaaS experience. I could give a fuck about that shit, right?
Yes.
Talk to me about the hands-on, day-to-day. What are they going to be doing? And what do they need to be good at?
Yes.
Then I go search for those. When I get the resumes in, or I start talking to the people, I then start dig into that. Hey, tell me a little bit about how you choose to write your emails to maximize return. What methodology do you use? How did you come to that, right? What happens if they don't work? Do you have a pivot strategy? Tell me a little bit about your research methodology to figure out who to call. Tell me how you build your pipeline. I go right into the day-to-day tasks to see how they do what they do. And so if I have accurately assessed the skill sets that are required to be good at the job, then I should be looking at only those things, asking questions only around those things.
Okay.
And then based on the answers, I should have a better understanding of what it takes.
Yeah. So you're really describing like a structured interview process in some ways, where you actually, identify the specific skills. Then you want to ask each candidate the same set of questions to check which ones are ticking the boxes or not.
Yes.
Which is
And I
what
would go
most
so
sales
far.
leaders aren't doing when they're doing an interview. It's more, oh, how are you going? What have you done? You know, tell me about yourself. It doesn't go in the way you're describing. Yeah. Yes.
I think some people do structured ones, but they still don't try to assess the right thing. This is about assessment,
that's
right?
true. Like,
if you want to
go
look
back
at
to first principles. Yes. Yeah.
Right. If you want to look at some people who do this really, really well, and I apologize because I know you're an Australian, so I apologize for your Australian rules, football, and other sports there, but I got to believe it's the same. In America, when they look at their sports teams, right, because there's so much money in it, if you pick wrong, right, it's even worse.
Yes.
They know exactly what they're looking for by every position. So if in American football, because it's my favorite sport, and you're looking for a left tackle, they know they want long arms. They know they want a certain mental football IQ. They know what type of footwork they're looking for. They know what type of strength is required. They know this because what they'll say is, look, this person's really, really good, and I think I'm right. Their arm length in relationship to the size of their body is a little shorter than we prefer. We think they'd be better at the right tackle, not the left tackle, because that's the blind side to the quarterback, right?
Okay.
They are super strong, but their footwork doesn't allow them to open their hips in a certain way, and that concerns us in case of an outside rusher. They know exactly what skills makes a absolutely fucking phenomenal left tackle. And if they could make it on a computer, they would. So the question to you guys is, do you know what makes a brilliant, perfect inside SDR? And I can tell you right now, it's not they sold SaaS.
Yes.
Right? It's not how many years they've been doing it. Because they don't say that in football. Oh, he's been in this for 10 years and he understands football. No. They get to the nitty gritty.
No, I think that's really powerful. And I shouldn't be surprised, but I do get a bit surprised. I've been helping some organizations improve their recruiting, and I ask them for a JD. And they say, oh, we've got a JD somewhere, or we did one a couple of years ago, or we'll get one from headquarters. You know, they're not really going back to what you're saying, because that's the process we should be going through, right? Exactly what you're saying. You know, what are the exact skills for each specific role, and then get the right person into that. So anything else on recruiting that's on your mind, or you recommend?
Yeah, no, just don't fall into the trap. Don't fall into the trap.
Absolutely.
Right? That they come from my industry. They do it, don't come from my industry. They do it, don't have a college degree. Sure. If I find another company that makes that requirement, I'm going to stick my foot up your ass. It's the biggest waste of freaking time on the planet, right? Sure. Even Google figured that shit out.
Yes.
Like, oh my God, Google, the data company of the world, crunched the numbers forever. They have the most successful people ever because everybody wants to work there. So they have the cream of the crop. They're like the Harvard of companies to work for, right? And they came back and said there was absolutely no correlation to success in the role and someone's the acquisition or the attainment of a degree and no degree. Stop it. That shit is ridiculous.
Yes.
Get real, get honest. If that means you have to sit next to an SDR, your best SDR for a week and take notes of exactly what they do and how they do it so that you can turn around and look for those skills, then you need to do that. Yep. Don't fall for the BS.
I mean, it's great advice. Great advice. Okay, Kenny, just change gears to prospecting. And, there's a lot of focus on prospecting, a lot of discussion about how that's changed and buyers are harder to get to. And a lot of companies having to really up their game to cut through. You know, there's a lot more noise out there now, especially in a lot of the space that I work in tech, in the SaaS space. I think there's like more than 5,000 SaaS vendors out there now, all hammering at buyers. So what do you think good prospecting looks like these days?
Understanding the environment that you're selling into, the business environment you're selling to, and the very specific problems and issues that your customers suffer from because they don't have your product or service. Okay. So understanding that industry, understanding the common issues, and then how do we use that? Once we understand that, okay, we understand we're selling into healthcare. We know they got problems with patient records. They got some other issue. So what do we then do with that in our prospecting efforts? Okay, so here's the key part, right? And I know you just use that as an example, but that's not enough, right? Okay, so I am. I hope they come through, but I am on this freaking. I don't even know the word. I'm on this rampage, this kick to convince companies to stop training new hires and their sales organization on their product and train them on the life of their buyer. I want you to understand how your buyer does their job, how they're measured, the impact of doing their job, the problems they face, how those problems happen, the root causes to those problems, why they exist, how often. I mean, I want you to understand all of that, because to your point about we know they have a problem with patient records and other stuff. No, I want to know that other stuff so that when I go to prospect, I'm calling in or sending an email that says, hey, listen, I understand as a healthcare manager that you have this mandate by such and such time. I also understand the most difficult part for you guys in getting those records into the whatchamacallit is being able to do it on the fly. I'm making this shit up, by the way.
Yeah, sure.
Doing it on the fly. And that we know that traditionally most of your records are here and scanning doesn't work. And we know this and we know that. I want to talk to you about how I can take that existing process for you and reduce this, minimize this, stop this, blah, 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 blah. You got 20 minutes to talk. I don't even talk about my product. I'm in your world. I'm sitting next to you like a consultant saying, hey, guess what? I see shit you don't see. Guess what? I understand processes you don't understand. Guess what? I am your best friend to get you to where you want to go because I know as much, if not more than you.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So that's taking that approach and just getting into much more detail. So just really doubling down on really understanding the customer, their issues. It's not actually a really new thing, but we seem to have to relearn these things all the time, right? This stuff's been around sales for a while. Even going back to Neil Rackham and spin and understanding the customer's problem,
Yes, but here's the key, right? And spin is the closest I found to this. And I wrote a book called Gap Selling, and it's coming out in the next couple of months.
Yeah, I look forward to discussing that too. Yeah.
Look, most of us have been told this stuff, but not in the context of what is required. And here's the context. Sales is about change. Okay. Everything is about change. You cannot sell something if somebody doesn't want to change or isn't changed or is going to change, right?
Yes.
Can't do it, right? And so change implies three things. First thing it implies a current state, where I am today. Sure. The second thing it implies is a future state, where I could be or want to go tomorrow. And the third thing it implies is there's some space in between that, which I call the gap.
Okay.
Three things. That's it, right? So when we talk about discovery in the past, it's fucking bullshit because no one really explained the context of the discovery. Your discovery has to completely and utterly be about 10 layers, 5 whys deep in the current state first. Right? And within that current state, you have to understand the physical and literal, like what's going on today. How are they doing? What are they doing? What exists? How big? Blah, 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 blah. You got to just know the basics, right? For them personally. Then you got to understand, because of that current literal and physical situation, what are the problems that are coming out of that? Then you have to understand what the impact of those problems are.
Yes.
Because problems and impact are separate. Then you have to understand what is the root cause of the problems existing in the first place. And then you have to understand what is the emotional state of the current state. Like, what is their emotional reaction to the current state? And you have to take all that and then go to the future. Where do you want to go? So the same thing on the future state, you have to understand, okay, literally and physically, where do you want to be? Specifically, please define it. Then when you get that, then you have to say, okay, what problems go away? So it's the inverse. Problems exist. Problems are going away to get you to that future state.
Yes.
Then you have to say, what's the new impact, right? What's the impact of the new future and current state as it exists? I mean, what it is, and what's the impact of that new future state?
Yes.
Then you have to ask yourself, what solutions will have been employed that address the root cause from the current state?
Sure.
When you do all of that, you have a gap.
You haven't talked about product yet.
What? Thank you. You have not talked about product yet. No product whatsoever.
Absolutely. Yeah.
None. And then when you do that, then you understand the size of the gap. And this is where salespeople miss the point. They miss it long before that, but this is where they really miss it. If the gap is too small for your solution and the cost of implementing your solution, they are not going to buy. You need to understand and be able to measure the gap and justify their purchase for them. If you
Are you talking about walking away from deals if you see that gap's too small and focus on ones where there's a decent gap?
All the time. It's like, I don't see that. Like, I don't think this is big enough here based on where you're trying to go, based on what you're trying to accomplish, based on what I charge, based on what I do. I don't think this is a good fit. I think all you need is X, a 24-hour training. Do that. Right?
Yep.
Yeah. Why? Because what happens is a lot of salespeople don't get this. The customer isn't sure of exactly what they need. So we all go down this sales process for 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, 8 months. And the customer finally gets to the end when they're about to write the check and they really stop pushing and realize, God, we're not really going to get much out of this. I don't think it's worth it. And they don't buy. Well, you should have known that freaking 8 months earlier.
Oh, exactly. Especially when you're talking about large deals as well, where there's going to be a lot of people get involved through the process at some point, and they're going to expose that. They're going to be sitting around that committee table saying, this doesn't really add up. The finance guy's going to be there and say, hey, it's not worth saving that much money just for this, all the change and so forth. So I think that's great. So tell us a bit more about the book since you brought it up already. I've seen you post a couple of quotes on LinkedIn from it. Tell us what it's about. I guess you covered it fairly well there, but what else would you like to say about the gap?
I think that's it. I mean, the book just takes what I shared with you in these last few minutes. I'm all hyped up today, too. I don't know if it's good or bad.
This is great.
Fired up. And it just walks you through how to sell in a manner that increases your sales, stops wasting time, gets your customer to go along the journey with you, and allows you to be far more effective salesperson than you are today. Far more than you are today. You've never read anything like this, I promise you. Yeah,
I really look forward to reading it. And if it's like any of your other material, I'm sure it's going to be awesome. Hey, let me just throw at you, for those that missed your video on relationship selling, I'd just like to hear from you for our listeners, your view on relationship. And it's a little bit controversial. It has been for a while, but I think you're on the money. But I'd love to get your view on that.
Yeah, relationships don't matter in sales. It doesn't matter. And people who run around trying to build relationships, to sell, they're doing it wrong. Now, that's the controversial piece. If I'm really, really want to be a little less controversial, I can caveat it this way. The relationships built on likability are a joke. Stop trying to build relationships on likability. I have this little, Keenan version of a Gartner 4x4 quadrant that basically has likability on the x-axis, I always mess it up, on the x-axis or y-axis, and then value on the other axis, okay? So picture this, likability up and down, value at the bottom, okay? In the bottom right-hand corner, no value and they don't like you, no one's fucking buying, okay? Yeah. Not only are they not buying, what I say in that is like, no, now go fuck yourself, because they're pissed. There's no value and they don't like you, so they're just irritated, right?
Yes.
Then if you go to the top right corner, tons of value in what you're selling, tons of value to the customer. They like you a lot. It's, I'm going to buy, hey, let's go have a beer. Like, that's a lot of my clients.
That's a bonus,
Yeah, that's nirvana. Love it. Yes, I'm buying and let's go have a beer, right?
Yeah.
The bottom right-hand corner is tons of value, no likability. They don't like you. Okay? It's, yes, I'll buy, and they just want to get away. Let's hurry up and do this transaction, and I'm out of here. But I want this. It has value. I want it. And then the other one is the top left corner. That is, I really, really like you, but there's no value. The answer is no with a smile. That's your Uncle Tom's MLM he's trying to sell to you. Right? That's your girlfriend's Tupperware or jewelry, at home business, which he's trying to sell you all this jewelry. It's like, hey, I love you to death, but now I'm not going to buy. Because there's no value.
Yes.
So the only time someone always buys isn't every time they like you. It's when there's value. And so rather than trying to sell on likability, sell on credibility.
Yes.
Build that relationship on credibility. They may not like you. I'm usually not liked and I'm usually liked. I'm a polarizing guy. But people don't like me buy all the time. Because I have credibility. They know I know what I'm talking about. They believe I can fix their business. They believe I can deliver on what I'm offering. Credibility wins every time. Likability only wins once in a while.
Yeah. No, I think you say it well. And I think a lot of it comes back to your messages in the gap as well, which is a lot about insight, having that deep insight into the customer's business. I guess that's what you're calling value in this access context. If you
And
really
the credibility access, having the insight is the credibility. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's really great. Hey, Keenan, you're a great personal brander, and you're really great on social. Like how important is that for salespeople to be branding themselves and using social and so forth? And any tips you've got around that?
Increasingly more valuable.
Okay.
Right. There's still people every day who make quota without doing it. But as we move, in my book, Not Taught, I talk about this. As we move more and more into a society where Google drives everything we do, if I Google you and I don't find anything on you, I'm like, hey, what's going on here, right?
Right.
Like I like to say obscurity is the plague of the commoner, and we're getting more and more into that. So you're better off to jump in now and start building a brand now and building an identity around what you sell or the products and services or the space, so that people, when they find you or can find you, are like, hey, I'm impressed with this guy. I like what this person's got. I want to hear more, and I can build that credibility. If I'm writing blog posts about the healthcare industry and mandates coming down the road and costs affecting you, or whatever your space is, or how you move onto into digital versus paper, blah, 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 and more people see that, I become associated with that identity, and then therefore you become a default go-to person. Here's the greatest power of branding, and you're the first people I've ever told this to. I think it all the time. This book, Not Taught, is not a sales book. It wasn't written to be a sales book. I even actually have a chapter in here that says learn to sell. Right? This is not a sales book.
Sure.
But because my brand is so big around sales, it keeps showing up on top sales books lists. It really does. I used to fight it, but I'm like, forget it. They can have it. If people feel it's a sales book, run with it. But it's not a sales book. Because it's associated with me, it's a sales book.
Do you think that a lot of people and salespeople, they underestimate their value as far as being valuable on social or building their brand? Because everyone's got something to say. They're usually at some intersection. Okay, someone's in a SaaS company selling into the financial industry. They've got a unique position that a lot of people would like to hear about. They're coming across certain information that people in that field, would respond to, like you're saying. So, do you think people underestimate the value that they can bring? There may be.
This is going to make your audience mad, but if the smart ones are going to hear this, and they're going to be the winners. No, yes. I don't think salespeople underestimate themselves. I think they overestimate themselves.
Oh, okay.
Right? The average salesperson, is keenly, and all the way back to how we started this whole conversation 30, 40 minutes ago, is keenly and utterly focused on quota attainment, making President's Club, building pipeline, and they're not as good as they should be as far as understanding their customer's business. They're not as really affluent or sophisticated in positioning their customers as a trusted advisor or positioning themselves as a trusted advisor. They really don't have tons of insight and value they can bring to their customers. They're fucking product pitchers. And that's why they can't go onto social and they can't actually drive value because they haven't fucking tried. They're so steeped in check out my product, my book, my fucking mouse does this and my mouse does that and my mouse is the best fucking mouse ever to walk across the planet. Why you would need to use it, I'm not quite sure, but it's the best fucking mouse you've ever seen in your life.
Yes.
They don't know how it works. They don't know if it's optical. They don't know how the optical came. They don't know why the optical is better than the roller. They don't know any of that shit and why people use mice.
Yes.
Yeah, the clue. So the answer to that is no. But the smart ones who didn't take offense right now, like, oh shit, he's right. And they're going to start thinking and educating themselves and growing their knowledge of their customers' business. I have a saying, it's no one gives a shit about you.
Yes.
Or your product or your service. Get in their business. Get in their pants.
Yeah. Well, I think great observation, Keenan. And great. That means a great opportunity for those that grasp it and really get this. They can really stand out from the crowd and it can be really powerful. And if anyone wants to know about doing social well and personal branding and you're not doing already, check out Keenan because he is the master. So Keenan, anything else on your mind you'd like to share before we wrap up? We had to stop it.
Beating everybody up. Yeah, I know you stumped me. I want to make sure. Look, it's all value to me.
Thank you.
Look, people, if you're gonna be a salesperson, be the best damn salesperson you could be. Bring tons of humility to the table. Start every day with what don't I know, not what do I already know. So many people come onto my page. I've been doing this for 30 years. I know this and I know that. Good for you. Good for you. But that doesn't help you. What don't you know? And what don't you know that you don't know? Right?
Yes.
I'm a PSIA certified level 2 ski instructor for Vail, right?
Yep.
I had to take tests to get that. One of those tests took 3 days of on-snow testing and written tests, and there's examiners who basically watch you ski, and then you have to show them how you would solve skiing issues. Like, it's no joke, right? Less than 50% of my class for level 2 passed. To get your level 3, it's so comprehensive. I want to get it someday, but I don't have the time. Like, it's literally a full-time job. It's no fucking joke. I also am a huge mogul skier. I spend every summer, well, almost every summer, at a camp in Whistler with some of the best mogul skiers in the world, including Mikhail Kingsbury, who won gold this past Olympics and silver 2 Olympics ago, including Jean-Luc Prasad, who won the very first gold back in '94, and all these other Olympians and World Cuppers. And I try to ski, and I'm like, God, I suck. I will ski 99.99% of every person who's listening.
Yes.
But I don't focus on them. They're in the rearview mirror. I'm focused on what don't I know? Why can I not absorb high enough to be able to ski a tighter line? Why do I have trouble shifting to get to my outside ski fast enough to be able to initiate the turn sooner? To you, you wouldn't see that different. Keenan can rip. I see it. I know I'm not doing it well. It's why I can't compete. If I were younger, I wouldn't be able to compete. It's why I can't hit a jump, do something big trick and land and control my speed because I'm too late to the shift. How do I fix that? How do I fix that? Folks, focus on what you don't know and commit to being a 1%er. The best of the better than 99% of every other person that does what you do. That's what I want to leave you with.
Yeah. Awesome, Keenan. I think great advice for all of us to be the best we can be and always be improving. Just great to have you. Thanks very much. And I'm sure everyone loved it. Talk soon. See you, man.
Thank you, baby. Thank you.